My name's Mike, and my story begins right here in Phoenix. I was born and raised in Phoenix, really middle class family, down on 15th Avenue in Indian School, more or less. Went to a Catholic church. I don't have any reason for why I went the way I did, other than I wasn't happy with who I was. Uh, Thinking back on it, that has been a theme throughout my life that has caused not only me a lot of trouble, but a lot of other people a lot of trouble. Me not being happy with who I am. Uh, Never was a big guy, had the Napoleon complex and all that. My parents got divorced when I was young, fourth grade, fifth grade. I don't really see that as having a big effect because I was still very active with my father. I still lived with my mother. I had a really good childhood. Was in Boy Scouts. Did a lot of camping and hunting and fishing. Uh, for a city boy, I spent a lot of time out in the wilderness, and I very much loved that. Had six. I was the eighth of nine kids. Um, I had six older sisters, and they were very popular, and they liked to party. And so I saw that as a way to become popular. I started drinking when I was in the seventh grade. Um, it was mostly hard alcohol at first, just sneaking stuff out of the parents' bottles and getting stuff from family members. By the time I was in eighth grade, I was partying pretty hard. Uh, I was still in Boy Scouts, but I was bringing booze on the camping trips. Never got caught, but they knew something was going on. When I got into high school, it just got worse. Um, I was never one to back down from a fight. I was never a good fighter, but I wasn't afraid to get my butt whooped, I guess you would say. Um, and it fed in with the whole Napoleon complex. I had to be crazier than everybody else, so they wouldn't even try to pick a fight with me. So did a lot of that kind of stuff. Um, as the drinking got worse, my grades got worse. I was never a really good student. I was a good test taker, and I could always get by with a passing grade with a D or a C because I could pass the test. I would never do homework or never really applied myself. Drove my teachers nuts. Um, the Things really started to spiral out of control my sophomore year in high school. I um, Again, drinking, smoking weed by that time. I think I've done PCP once by that time too. The Partying was every weekend and pretty much every day at that point. I missed so many absences at school that they kicked me out. Parents were very disappointed. They This was 1984, and they left on a trip back to Oklahoma to visit family, and they left me in the care of friends that lived down the street. I felt like it was every kid's obligation to throw a party when their parents were out of town. Now, they had locked up the house, but I was always pretty good at breaking into places. And so I broke into the house, and we got a keg of beer, and we had a big party. Um, I was I had hunter safety training from an early age. I grew up around firearms. I was in JROTC at the time. Um, that party was just a big mess. Friday night, we were all playing around with guns, playing Russian roulette, just doing really, really stupid stuff. The There was a little bit of the one of the kegs left, and so some of the guys came back the next day, and that was December 22nd, 1984. I remember it very well because, this it's just one of those dates. Um, there was maybe half a dozen to eight people in the house, including myself. We were again playing around with guns. I had a 22 revolver in my hand, and I pointed it at a friend, a guy by the name of Robert Spidell. And I said something cheesy like, "Freeze, don't move." And he said, "Oh, you're not going to shoot me." The gun literally went off in my hand. The bullet struck him in the forehead right between his eyes, and he just fell over dead. The whole room went silent. I said something like, "Oh my God, I just blew his head off." Everybody disappeared. I ran out after them. I was able to catch one. His name was Pat. He was a very close friend. And I talked him into coming back to the house. But when I got him back to the house, all that was on my mind was that my life was over. I wasn't thinking about Robert. I wasn't thinking about anybody else. I was just thinking about me. My life was over, and we needed to hide the body. We needed to hide this. We needed to make this go away. I didn't have a car. He didn't have a car. Growing up out in the wilderness, I knew a lot of good mine shafts out there in the wilderness. It would be a good place to hide a body, but we had no transportation. And so he's trying to talk sense into me. I'm saying we need to hide the body. I'm trying to get a hold of a buddy with a car. Next thing I know, he's gone again too. I remember looking over there at Robert. There's a fountain of blood coming out of his head. I covered him with a sheet just so I wouldn't have to see his eyes. And then it came to me that I needed to call the police. I doubt if I was the first one to call the police that day, but I did call the police. And they had me wait on the phone until they arrived, the dispatcher or whoever it was that I had called. I have no idea how long it took for the police to get there. I actually started hyperventilating and passed out. The police woke me up. They took me out, set me in a car, and just the whole neighborhood was full of cops, and I must have sat out there for hours before they finally took me into the Durango facility for juveniles here in Phoenix. It would take a couple of days for my parents to get back to town. They won't even find out until later that day. I don't know when they found out, but it takes them a couple of days to drive back to town. A priest comes and sees me from the church. Man, I was scared. I thought my life was over. I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life in jail. Again, I was only thinking about me. I wasn't thinking about Robert or his family or his other friends. I knew better. I had gun safety training. I was in JROTC. I knew better. This shouldn't have happened to me, but I was being stupid. I was only thinking about myself. I was trying to show off. I was trying to be somebody I wasn't. That comes back over and over in my life. It doesn't just hurt me. It hurts people around me. They didn't know whether to charge me with... They recognized that it was an accident. We later found out that particular pistol had been recalled for a faulty trigger, but that doesn't matter. I was holding it pointed at his head. So they put an alternate charge. They didn't know whether to charge me with manslaughter or second-degree murder. In the state of Arizona, the last definition of second-degree murder is negligent with no regard for human life. And that very much applied. My parents took a second mortgage out on the home, got a lawyer. There was also a plea to transfer me as an adult to face adult time, and I figured that's what was going to happen. The prosecutor flat out told us he wanted to make an example out of me. He told me that to my face. And I got that, I understood why. The plea bargain was that if I would plead guilty to the more serious second-degree murder, they would drop the plea to transfer me as an adult, and that way I would only do juvenile time. I could only serve till I was 18. Whether I was convicted of manslaughter or second-degree murder as a juvenile, it still meant I was going to be in jail till my 18th birthday. I took the plea, and they sent me off to Adobe. I will spend about a year and a half in Adobe. Adobe Mountain Juvenile Correctional Facility north of Phoenix. To be honest, I did well there. I thrived under high discipline. I jumped through all the hoops they asked me to jump through. I went from getting by at being a high school dropout to getting my GED and starting college early. I was working a full-time job, part-time job, and going to college, and it was a cakewalk. It was so easy. I just thrived in that high discipline environment. I wanted to join the military because I knew that's where I would continue to thrive. But they did not let me out till my 18th birthday. I remember how green the world looked coming back into my old neighborhood. It's just everything looked so green. Being out there in the desert for that long, it's just everything was so green, so bright. I didn't learn anything though. I still had that chip on my shoulder. I still was thinking only about me. I was still trying to be somebody I wasn't. And it was even worse. I was like trying to make up for lost time. I felt like I missed out on a big part of my childhood. And so I went right back into the partying. Yeah, I signed up for college, but I was just coasting through there. I had a job, but just enough to get by. I started drinking again. I started smoking weed again. And then I found methamphetamine. At first, it was great. I was able to talk to women. I was never good at talking to girls. And this just, I could let go of my inhibition. I could party all night, do some drugs, and I'd be right back to finish it out and go to work the next day and excel at work. And it went from being a weekend thing to a daily thing to I didn't function without it. I used it like coffee. I used it like a coffee addict uses coffee, not just in the morning, but just to function, just to get by. I was a good functioning addict, though. I didn't do well in school. I dropped out of school, never completed my college degree. I got a job, fast food restaurants, but I always did well. No matter what job I had, I always did well because I was a good worker. I would show up on time. I was dependable. And I had good customer service skills. So no matter what job I ever had, I always did well in it, and I would rise through the ranks. And, I went working at a Subway from being a sandwich artist to night manager to store manager to production manager to managing to opening up a franchise from 2 stores to 7 stores. Working crazy hours, 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week. And still using drugs. In the meantime, I meet what would become my wife down on the beach in Mexico, down in Rocky Point, 1992, Memorial Day weekend. I met her on the beach at about 2:00 in the morning in front of the Pitaya Cantina. We were both drunk. Tequila played a big role in that night. She doesn't really drink tequila ever since then. She learned her lesson, but we would get married in 96. So we didn't rush into anything. We dated for 4 years before we got married. We dated for 3 years before we got engaged. Was engaged for a year before we got married. I drug her into the addiction with me. So we were both using. And I'm not sure if I should say that, but like I said, I was a functioning addict for most of my time as in my addiction, but slowly but surely it caught up to me. I quit the Subway job and became a bartender because I was just tired of working all the hours. The bartending allowed me to, well, the excuse was I could follow my passions more. I could go out and I could go camping and hiking and four-wheeling and exploring. And I did do more of that because I had more time, but really the addiction became my hobby. That, as it progressed, it became more and more, it just consumed every minute I had. If I wasn't using dope, I was trying to get dope or trying to get money to get dope. But that was the excuse. Is I go bartending and they give me time to get back out in the wilderness and and enjoy Arizona. But doing that job, people would come to me. It was actually really close, right over here at I-17 in Cactus. I was tending bar at a hotel, and the guests would come to me if they came in with 4-wheel drives and were looking to go somewhere, and I would tell them where to go and tell them kind of the background of the area and some of the history of it. And it was doing that a guy by the name of Jim found me. Jim owns a tour guide company that was started back in '83, and he specializes in one-day van tours all over the state of Arizona. And he gave me a job. I loved this job. This job defined me. I was literally getting out, getting up to the Grand Canyon, Sedona, Jerome, Tombstone, Montezuma Castle, down to Mexico, up to Four Corners, up to San Juan, Painted Desert, Monument Valley. I'm getting to meet people from all over the world, taking them on tour, showing them just the coolest spots in Arizona. I'm getting to know people all over the state. I'm really feeding my passion for learning. I was never a good student in school, but I love to learn, and so there's always something new to learn with the geology, the botany, the anthropology, the history. It never ends. There's always something new to pick up, and it really made me come alive. But I was still active in my addiction. I was still using. He had no clue. I was a good guide. The people liked me. But every chance I got to get away, I would get off. I don't know how much time I spent in Porta John smoking meth. It's disgusting. But that was one of the great places to smoke meth because people left you alone in a Porta John. Like I said, I was a functioning addict. The company I was working for changed insurances. The new insurance company, this is about 4 years into being a guide, the new insurance company required random drug tests. And it didn't take very long before I dropped dirty. I played the game for a while, but it didn't take very long before I dropped dirty. I completely denied it, claimed it was a false positive, the typical thing that all addicts do. Jim gave me a second chance. He actually he paid for me to go through an outpatient rehab. Took me off the driving for several months, put me through an outpatient rehab, and then he let me drive for him again. And within 3 months, I dropped dirty again, and he had to fire me. That was the first real consequence that I ever faced because of using drugs. I thought I was hiding it very well, and for the most part I was, but that's the first time it really caught up to me, and it really took something that was precious to me away. From there, I went to just odd jobs, mostly working for auto glass companies at car washes. I was that guy who was trying to fix your chip on your windshield or sell you a new windshield. That was even worse. If you're trying to get away from drugs, don't work at a car wash. It is just, at least, I don't know how it is now, but it was really bad back then. This is early and mid 2000s now. Again, I did well at the job, but I was at this point I was showing up late because I had to get high before I came in, and it was taking me longer and longer and longer to get high. Taking me longer and longer to put the pipe down before I would leave. I had to disappear for an hour or two in the middle of the day just to get high to spend in the bathroom. Everybody knew what I was doing. These were a bunch of druggies I was working with. They knew what I was doing. I thought I was hiding it. My family pretty much stopped it coming around me at that point. I know now that they were praying for me. Eventually I got fired from that job, and that's when I actually resorted to criminal enterprise to not only pay my bills but to feed my addiction. I developed a technique to rob big box stores. My primary targets were Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, Kmart, Target. I would break into the store after hours when nobody was there. Mostly. Sometimes I'd break in while overnight stalkers were there, and that was a little more dangerous. I tried to avoid that, but I did that too. I came real close to getting caught a few times because of that. I actually was spotted by employees and had to escape. But if you would have told me when I was in Boy Scouts that in you know, 20 years, 15 years, I'd be addicted to methamphetamine and stealing. I probably would have hit you in the mouth. That would have been such an offense to my character when I was in Boy Scouts. But that's who I became. And to be honest, I was just as addicted to the adrenaline rush that came from stealing, that came from breaking into a business and taking whatever you wanted. If anything, I was probably even more powerful than the drug itself. The adrenaline, the rush of just getting away with it. And I thought I was really good. I was probably more really lucky. I did that for about 5 years. I stole a lot. I mean, this is how I paid my bills. This is how I fed my addiction for 5 years almost. I started getting sloppy at it too. I started to skip little parts in my system that were redundancies, but they were redundant for a reason. They kept me from getting caught because they were fail safes. They were backups, and I kept taking shortcuts, and it was usually because I was spending too much time getting high and getting a late start, or something happened or whatever. Anyways, it got to the point where Home Depot realized that I was stealing from them, but they didn't know exactly how at first. Then they figured out how, but they couldn't quite catch me. They got enough together, though, that they staked out 5 different stores one weekend. So they had people overnight on the weekend, because that's when they didn't have the stalkers, staking out 5 different stores. And they saw me come on property and they jumped the gun. They called the police a little bit too early. And so when the police showed up, I hadn't actually gained access inside. So they got me for trespassing and possession of burglary tools, but I wasn't actually in the store yet. There was a helicopter and everything else. Cops came from everywhere. There had been other times where I got lucky and got away. I remember sitting in a tree watching cops come around and them not seeing me. I mean, there's so many times I got lucky. I remember pretending like I'm a bum and sleeping under a bush while cops walked by me and stuff like that. And I got lucky over and over and over again. This time, not so. They came and arrested me. They put me in jail. Nobody knew I was in jail except my wife. They finally, after 2 weeks, released me on own recognizance. The day I got out of jail, I remember walking to the bus stop and talking a bus driver into give me a ride home because I didn't have any money. And I remember talking to a woman and her kids in the back of the bus and telling them not to do what I had done, kind of witnessing to them. And I was planning on going straight, but once I got back home, man, things were falling apart. We had a house actually pretty close here over on Surrey and 31st Avenue, $700 a month mortgage payment. We smoked that up. We had a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house for $700 a month, and we smoked that up. We were so far behind on the bills at this point that they're wanting to repossess the house. They're wanting to foreclose on us. We're trying to do a short sale. They're not allowing us because we're just too far behind. The market is tanking. We're in 2008 now. So nobody, the market's just down the toilet. We're going to lose the house. We had to be out. I had a court date coming up. They were recommending just probation, and that they would take the felony, the possession of burglary tools, and drop it down to a misdemeanor if I completed probation. So I was going to look into walk without even a felony charge if I did it right. But I didn't know what the judge was going to say, and I agreed to do one more job before I went to court. So on Sunday, before I had court on Monday, so Sunday night, Monday morning, I had waited. I did one more job. What I didn't know is when they had released me, they had also assigned to me a Phoenix Police Department task force, and they were just waiting for me to mess up again. They had been following me for 2 weeks. There were several times where I thought they were following me, and then I would excuse it, saying, "No, they wouldn't invest that kind of man hours in me. I'm too little time. They're not gonna put that effort into me." They do. They literally had the repeat offenders task force around a store that I broke into. They watched me roll up. They watched me break in. They watched me grab. They had cops inside, outside. They watched me grab a whole thousands of dollars worth of tools. They watched me get it out of the store, load it up into my vehicle, and drive off. This is the part I never even contemplated. The only thing that we really had this was 2008. This was a 2004 Kia Sorento 4x4. And that's what I was using to escape in. Under the RICO Act, it allowed them to seize it. And they sold that, and that's what helped pay for the investment they made into me. I never considered they would do that. They stone cold nailed me. I mean, there was the whole task force pulled me over on I-17 coming back into town. It was a mess. I was beat. I was done. I was tired. I wish I had a copy of my photograph from that arrest. I need to get it because I would like, when I do my testimony, I would like to have that picture just because I was, 165 pounds. I was just done. I was just beat. It was over. The thing, my spidey senses were tingling that night, but I knew I had to get that job in, and I did it anyways, and sure enough. Again, I thought my life was over. I knew that I was going to be doing time now. I was out on a felony, and I picked up a second felony. On release for court. So yeah, they pick me up. They throw me back in jail. Now I'm charged with second degree burglary. Third degree burglary, which is burglary on a commercial property. Second degree burglary is burglary on a residential property. First degree burglary is when you do it with a weapon. So I got third degree burglary, possession of burglary tools. Back in jail, and I thank God for that today. I really do. That was exactly what I needed. Looking back, I can see so many times where he tried to pull me out of that lifestyle, out of that caca, in a kinder, more gentler way, and I just wouldn't have it. I'm just dumb. I'm just stiff-necked, whatever you want to call it. I got to be hit upside the head with a 2x4 before I get things, and it's just, man, he put me into. It took me 3 months to get sentenced, and I actually took the first plea they gave me, but it still took me 3 months to get through the system. The pod I was in the lower Buckeye jail, every night there was a group of guys who would get together and read the Bible and pray for each other. If we had people going to court the next day, we would pray for those guys going into court. And man, I got into the Word, and I got into the Bible study every night. And after they would lock us all down, we would sit at the cracks of our doors, and we would actually sing worship songs through the crack of our door. One time it actually saved the whole pod. Something, I don't remember what it was. Something went down on the pod that day, and they locked us down early, and the sergeant was coming in to jack us. I don't know what he was going to give us, but he came in to jack us. And when he came in, he walks through the middle of the floor, and he just heard 8 guys, different parts of the cell block, singing out praise and worship. And he sat there and listened to it for a while. He shook his head and walked out without giving the rest of the pod. So it actually saved the pod from some kind of ramification. I don't know what he was going to throw down, but I gave my life to Christ in jail. I know that's cliche, but man, I gave my life to Christ in jail. There were the Church on the Street ministries coming in there awesome guys. Pastor Gator, oh my gosh, what a testimony that man has. Touched me. It gave my life to Christ in jail. My mom was coming to visit me, and she's telling me, you know what, I've been praying for you. The whole family's been praying for you. We knew you were, you know. She also told me that God had told her that she needed to let go and let him deal with me, because her rescuing me wasn't helping me, you know. So she, she backed off years before and let God deal with me, and there I was finally listening to her, and we cried over that. I actually got accepted by the Dream Center. So they accepted me and said they would put me through their program, but it was up to the judge. So I pled guilty to the charges because I was guilty. I was really lucky. What I was wanting was the Dream Center. I still kind of wonder what it would have been if that were the case, but that wasn't God's plan. I should have gotten 5 years. Instead, I got 1 year in county jail with 3 years probation. So this is back in the good old Sheriff Joe days. So they send me from Lower Buckeye Jail down to the in-yard tents. To this day, whenever somebody says that's intense, I have a completely different thought of what intense means than most people. I spent 9 months in tents. And I thank God for it. Say what you will about Joe Arpaio. He created an environment that I do not want to go back to. Okay? So say what you will about him. He did do that for me. In the meantime, my wife, we have a child. We have a 2-year-old. She's actually 3-year-old at that time. She's homeless. She's moves in with her aunt, but they don't get along. She's bouncing back and forth. The house was foreclosed on. Everything in the house, the house got broken into before it got foreclosed on. A lot of our stuff was stolen, but most of it was stolen stuff anyways. What didn't went into storage, and the storage was getting foreclosed on because my wife didn't have the ability to pay it. I was trying to get work furlough. So they transfer me to the in-yard tents. They give me my back time, so the 3 months I spent waiting to get sentenced will count as my year, which is great. They move me to the tents. I get a job called third shift transportation trustee, which means overnight I go down to the old Madison Street jail, which is now condemned, and we clean it up, and we get ready for the inmates that are going to appear before a judge. They have an underground system so that they transfer the inmates to the court systems underground, and it's set up very well. So the in-custody people who are going to courts will get transferred down to the Madison Street Trail. They'll go underground to the courtrooms, come up and see them, then come back. So we get everything ready for them. We feed them in the morning, and then we get to go back and we get to sleep in a tent in the heat of the day. As soon as we get back to the tent, they would call what I remember it as razors or tasers. They got everybody out of bed and said you had to shave or you get tased. So it was razors or tasers, gentlemen, razors or tasers. So you got up, you took your shower, you shaved, then you got breakfast, and you tried to go back to sleep. I had a lot of fun at that job. At least I got to eat. I was starving when I was waiting to be sentenced. Never had any money on my books. I never. So I was dependent on whatever the sheriff gave me to eat. They fed you twice a day, and everything they gave me. I'm not a picky eater, and everything I could scrounge up, and I still lost 20 pounds. Meth addicts shouldn't go to jail and lose 20 pounds. I got down to like 145 by the time I got to the in-yard. Once I got to the in-yard, then you had plenty of food. Once you were working for them, they fed you well. So I was happy about that. But every day I would drop what's called a tank order. and that is a request to go see somebody from adult probation. My purpose in wanting to see somebody from adult probation is to request that they transfer me to work furlough so that I could at least get out, make some money for my family, and so they could be supported. A month goes by, hear nothing, just nothing. Going to work, doing my thing. One night, I get a headache. It's something I haven't really suffered from since I've been in my recovery, but I used to get migraine headaches occasionally, not a lot, but occasionally. And this was a real migraine headache. I did not want the detention officers to know it, so I tried to go to work, but they could tell something was wrong with me because I have huge light sensitivity and everything else. So they insisted I go to the hospital. I actually fought them on that. They actually had to restrain me and make me go to the hospital. The reason I fought them on that is because the work furlough yard is also intense. And if you're not medically cleared for the in-yard tents, you're never going to get work furlough. So if I had any kind of a medical issue, that would be a huge step in the wrong direction. So the whole bunch of officers physically restrain me. They take me down to the hospital. I spend the night in the hospital. They bring me back, and the next day they transfer me back into the lower Buckeye jail into an infirmary ward, which, again, I knew that was going to happen. That's why I tried to go to work. Huge step back. Man, every day I'm still dropping the tank order every day, trying to get to see somebody from adult probation. I'm in this infirmary unit for about a week before I finally get to see somebody from adult probation. Lady comes up, pulls 4 inmates out. I'm the first one she's going to talk to. She goes, okay, what do you need? I said, okay, this is my, I've got a wife, I've got a child, they have no means of support. I really, really need work furlough. What can you do for me? She opens up my folder. She takes one look of it, 2 seconds, closes it back up, says, there's no way in hell you're going to get work furlough. Next. And I'm all, wait. I've been trying to get to talk to you for a month and a half. You take 2 seconds and you tell me no way. Tell me why. She says, I can't tell you in front of the other inmates. I tell her, I don't care about the other inmates. Why can't I get work furlough? And she says, there's a 2nd-degree murder charge in your history. There is no way that we're going to put a violent offender on work furlough. It's never going to happen. Forget about it. Next. I tried to argue with her. That was in my juvenile record. You shouldn't even know about that. It doesn't matter. It's in your record. They're not going to put a violent offender on work furlough. They're not releasing violent offenders. It's not going to happen. She boots me out, talks to the other guys. Man, I was crushed. That was my hope, was at least I'd be able to get out and support my family. The rest of that day I spent trying to call everybody I knew. My sister worked for judges and was a legal secretary, and I'm trying to get hold of my public defender and everything else, and I'm just hitting brick walls everywhere. Brick wall. My cellmate, these are 2-person cells, my cellmate gets transferred out. It is very, very rare that you have a cell all to yourself, even for one night. It happens, but it's pretty rare. That night I had a cell to myself. I wish I hadn't. But that night, I really gave it up to God. I said, I've tried everything I know how to do in my own power. You know how bad I need work furlough. Lord, I give it to you. And I couldn't get to sleep that night. I was just so worried about my wife and my kid. I couldn't get to sleep that night. And I heard a voice loud and clear, like you talking to me in this room. It clearly said, do not worry, you're going to get work furlough. And I knew it was God. I don't know if that was an audible voice or something I heard in my head. I would swear that it was an audible voice. I wish there was somebody else in that cell to confirm that that was an audible voice. To me, it was an audible voice. Let's leave it at that. I knew it was God. I knew it was true. But then I started to worry about what I would do if I got work furlough. It instantly switched to, even if I get work furlough, who the heck is going to hire me? I mean, I haven't had a job in 5 years. I now got 2 felony convictions. I'm literally in jail. Who is going to hire me? And I heard the voice again. This time it was a little louder and sharper, like he was scolding me, actually. I told you not to worry. Go back to auto glass. With that, I fell asleep. I don't know how long it was, but early in the morning, probably around 3 o'clock is when they usually do it. I'm awake to the sound of my cell door opening. It's all automated. Detention officer comes in, says, "Roll up, leggy. You're being moved." I think I'm being moved back to the inn yard. I grab all my stuff. They literally transferred me to work furlough yard that night. So less than 24 hours after a detention officer, or I'm sorry, a probation officer tells me there's no way in hell you're going to get work furlough. And who knows how many minutes after God told me I was literally rolled up and transferred to the work furlough yard. I can't explain that. They released me 4 times before they realized that I have a second-degree murder charge as a juvenile, and then they stopped let me go out. But by that time, I've already gone out and come back and shown good faith, I guess you will. But they hold me back for a week, trying to figure out what they're going to do with me. And I'm just praying. I got everybody I know praying, and they allow me to stay on work furlough yard. First guy I call was my old auto glass guy, boss, and he gives me a job. And again, I was back at the car wash slinging auto glass. Had to take a bus up there, had to take a bus back. It sucked. I had to leave so early that I missed breakfast. I got back so late that I missed dinner. Again, I'm hungry. But at least I'm making money, and they're keeping most of it for the cost of keeping me in work furlough. But I'm able to give my wife, my kids, some money every week, which is awesome. I'm able to see them once a week. It's usually they would have to take a bus, and I would have to meet them at another bus stop, and we get each other crossing just so I can hand them off some cash. But I'm able to see them. I did that for a better part of 9 months. I got out, and my wife and my daughter were living with my younger brother, and so he let us rent a room there. He gave us a room for a while, and then he let us rent a room for really cheap for a while. Still working at the auto glass. My sister Carol started picking me up and taking me to Pure Heart Church on Sundays. What's really cool about this is her sister Linda, picked her up and took her to Pure Heart. My sister Joan picked Linda up and started taking her to Pure Heart when she was going through stuff. So this was actually like the 5th time in my family that one of my sisters or nieces, took somebody who was in trouble and started bringing them here to Pure Heart Church. And you know how Dan is. He was speaking right to me every weekend. He has just an amazing gift. And I fell in love with this church. And I started coming here regularly. My sister couldn't always take me, and so I ended up having to take a bus to get here. I was living down on 7th Avenue and Camelback. It would take me like an hour and a half just to get here on a bus, but I wouldn't miss. I was here. Then I hear about becoming part of Pure Heart Church, and I'm like, yeah, I want to be a member. Heck yeah, they're feeding me. I'm growing here. At that time, this was years ago. At that time, they required that you go to a class called the Purple Book, which is an awesome group, awesome program. Any new Christian, I think, should really dive into it. But at that time, it was a requirement for membership. So I started going to this Purple Book class, which was in room 101, which is now where the food pantry is, or part of the food pantry. I got there early because it was 8 o'clock on Sunday. So to get there at 8 o'clock on Sunday, the buses at that time, I don't know if they're better now, but they only were running 1 an hour. So I'd either have to be there 15 minutes late or 45 minutes early. So I'm showing up 45 minutes early. And I just checked the door just to have a place to go in and sit. I was expecting it to be locked, but it was open. And I walk into a men's Bible study. I try to sneak out. I'm sorry. I'm here for the Purple Book class. I'm just early. Excuse me. Sorry to bother you. The pastor did not let me leave. He's all, yeah, you're a man. You got a Bible in your hand. You're here for a reason. Come in, sit down. And I did. And this guy ended up becoming my mentor, and he still is to this day. I still do Sunday morning Bible studies with this man to this day. The group has changed dynamics a little bit, but this guy took me under his wing and really discipled me. The adult discipleship program that was in place was a whole year of Sunday mornings. And oh my God, it was fantastic. I grew, I learned, it just taught you everything. There's just so much growth, so much fruit that came out of that. I believe I was the last one to actually complete the whole thing. For reasons unknown to me, it's no longer there. But oh my God, it was such a fabulous program. But I also started serving in church. That's doing the Purple Book. I found out about baptism. Now, I was baptized as a Catholic, but I got baptized again. I had my sister Carol get to do it because she's the one who started bringing me here. That meant a lot to her. I started serving in kids' ministries. I started tithing. Oh my gosh, that changed my life. Dan gave a sermon about it, and I thought, am I going to trust God more than I trust that 10%? And man, my first year out of jail, I didn't even make 10 grand. I was living with my brother. I think I made like $8,700 that first year out of jail, which means the tithe wasn't that big. But for us, it was a lot. It was a huge step of faith. My wife was totally against it. Are you crazy? We don't have enough to begin with, and you want to give away? But we did it. We did it. And man, within 2 or 3 months of tithing, I went to a party where I ran into an old friend that I knew from when I was using. She was clean now, and she was an insurance agent. And she said, and she found out what I was doing. And she said, I can get you a much better glass job than working at I know a guy who can get you a much better, who has a glass company, and he'll get you way better than and it did. I gave the guy a call, and I went from hawking glass at a car wash to doing the same thing at a dealership, at Showcase Honda is where I ultimately ended up. I started up at Airport Chrysler, but I ended up at Showcase Honda. I could walk to work. It was about a 45-minute walk, but I could walk to work, and my income doubled the first year I started tithing. It's just unbelievable. It doubled again the second year I started tithing. So I'm actually able to support my family now. And that's all because I started tithing, or at least that's the way I see it. It's the same job, but now I have credibility because I'm at a new car dealership, and man, that was an amazing thing. They couldn't actually they actually wanted to hire me, but because of my criminal convictions, they never did. They never could. But there's a big shakeup in the glass company. The guy who hired me left. He not only left the company he was working for, he got another job with a company that was under the same umbrella as the dealership was. It was the Van Tile Group. So he got a job at Arrowhead Auto Glass, which was owned by Acura of Peoria. I'm working down at Showcase Honda in Phoenix, but it's all under the same umbrella. And so he's trying to get rid of all the other auto glass companies that all the other dealerships is using and getting everybody to use him. He tries to recruit me, but they can't hire me because of my criminal record. I didn't know what to do. I was praying and praying and praying about what I should do, and the only thing I got was, you're going to be fine no matter what you do. And that's not what I want to hear. I want a clear direction. Serving in ministries here at Pure Heart, healing prayer in particular, altar prayer, the kids ministries, the intercessory prayer, really taught me to hear the Holy Spirit. I got confirmation in these ministries that let me know that what I was hearing wasn't just me. It was the Holy Spirit, because you would get confirmation from 3, 4, 5 different people that, what you're hearing, they're hearing too, And just awesome. But I was looking for clear direction. All I got was, you're going to be okay. So I decided to stay with the old glass company. They're going to move me to another dealership that's outside of the Van Tile group. When I first got onto that dealership drive in the service department, they didn't want me there. They were selling these auto glass jobs to outside companies and getting cash in their pockets. So me being on that drive was literally taking money out of their pockets. The service advisors did not want me there. But like I said, I was a hard worker. I had good customer service skills, and they saw that just day in and day out. And I would get there early. I would pray over the place. I was there several years when this happened, and the head of the service department, when he found out that they were going to make me that I was going to be going to another dealership and they were going to get somebody new, he got up in front of all the service writers and he said, I want your guys' opinion. Mike's been here several years. I really like what he's done here. I would like to keep him. How do you all feel? And every single one of them said that they wanted to keep me. I never had people do stuff like that for me before. I never deserved people doing stuff like that for me before. It really touched me. And what he basically told me is, unless I am ordered to get rid of you and use this other glass company, I'm going to use whoever you work for. And what was so cool about that is it actually put me in a position that no matter what glass company I worked for, I could deliver the dealership and the volume of glass that this dealership brought with it. And so Frank came to me and said, okay, what's it going to take for me to get your business from this show? And I basically got to write my own ticket. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. That's when my income went up again. Eventually, I would leave to become a locksmith. There was another big shakeup. The Van Tile group sold to what's his name? Anyways, another rich guy. Buffett. Buffett bought out the whole Van Tile group, and there was a big shakeup. And they didn't. Frank was no longer with Arrowhead Glass, and they were trying to figure out what to do with me. And I just told him, you know what? If you can hire me, if you can make me an employee, give me benefits, I will love to stay. But if you can't, I've got another opportunity. And they didn't hire me, so I took the other opportunity. I'm a locksmith. I actually have 2 jobs now. One of them is as a locksmith. People trust me with their house. This church knows my history. They trust me. I got keys to the church. I let myself in here. That should never happen. I shouldn't be a locksmith. People trust me now where they shouldn't. Family members trust me where they never used to. I remember I used to steal my mother-in-law's car to go out and commit burglaries. The first time she gave me her keys in my recovery and her credit card, said, can you go up to the store and get me something? I was floored. That meant so much to me. People trust me now. I shouldn't be a locksmith, but I am. I got involved with the Monday Night Healing Group here in Pure Heart. These guys are awesome. They've been a huge part of my recovery, and I'm a regular face at Monday night in the men's chemical dependency group. I've been going there for a decade now. One of the things that keeps me going back is I get to see redemption when there. I mean, if people are really serious, if they're really willing to give it, if they're desperate enough, if they have that gift of desperation, I mean, is what it boils down to, I get to see their lives changed. And I see it over and over and over again. There's a pattern to it. And I see God over it all. And there's just, you can't tell me God isn't real. I've seen too much. I've seen miracles. I've seen people's lives restored. I've seen mental health restored. I've seen healings. I just saw one 2 weekends ago. I praying over a brother's ankle. The swelling literally went half of what it was. I felt it. I saw it. You can't tell me God's not real. I've seen too much. It wasn't until those discipleship classes here at Pure Heart that I really learned the Trinity, the nature of God, and I still don't have the words to describe it, but I know a little bit more what Jesus did on the cross. Being divine and choosing to take the form of man and go through all the caca that we go through all the temptation that we go through, and do it right. The only one that was able to fulfill the law, to not miss the mark or not completely step out of bounds like me, and then lay down his own life for me. That's powerful, and I understand that a lot better today. I still don't completely understand the whole Trinity. I don't think I probably ever will. The Holy Spirit, the way it moves, is just amazing. Like I said, in some of these prayer ministries, when you get to see it moving, like just a couple of weekends ago, I was up with 400 guys worshiping God. 400 guys just specifically looking for what God has in their life, worshiping together, asking for the Holy Spirit to move. He moves. And I'll keep going back there time and time again because I know he's going to show up and show off. Like I said, you can't tell me he isn't real. I've seen too much. I don't know how to describe it. I don't hear his voice as well as I used to, and that's because I've pulled away from some of the things he's asked me to do, and I need to get back to it. But I don't know how else to describe it. I've seen the pattern to it. I've seen him working. I see redemption win over and over and over again. I've seen life saved. I've seen, I haven't seen anybody raised from the dead yet, but I often wonder if, given the opportunity, I'd be bold enough to pray for somebody to be raised from the dead. I've seen people come out being homeless on the street, literally insane, to being married with kids, having their own business, and working for the Lord. So I mean, it's undeniable. I've seen it too many times. You can't tell me he isn't real. There's a song out right now. You can't tell me he can't do it. It's powerful. You see it. It's there. It's real. It's tangible. The Bible is truth. For thousands of years, people have been trying to find flaws in it, and the best they can do is the way it's written. It's good. It's truth. I truly believe that Jesus Christ is the truth, the way, and the light. He said it. I believe it. But that Monday night healing group is just phenomenal. The guys there are just phenomenal. We do life together. I am still very, very active in my recovery. I lead another group on Thursday nights at an inpatient faith-based rehab. It's another huge part of my recovery. Out of a retreat that a lot of us guys from the Monday Night Healing Group went to was born the Ironman ministry here at Pure Heart. I'm part of that as well. Awesome group of guys. I'm a new creation. I'm not the same guy I used to be. I'm not that thief. I'm not that drug addict. I have absolutely no desire to do dope. You could drop it in my lap. I have no desire to do it whatsoever. I am a new creation in Christ. I've been rebuilt. Going through the step work, going through the 12 steps, they're all biblically based. I actually went through them in the discipleship program here. So I never really went through them in the group. And I was challenged 8 years into my sobriety that, hey, you should go through the steps, because if you don't go through the steps, how are you going to take somebody else through the steps? And so I did. I went through the steps. And when I was making my amends, I had called up my employer, Jim, with the tour company. And I made an arrangement to go down and meet him. And I told him what all had happened. And I told him how specifically I had wronged him, how I put his business in risk, how I put his customers in risk, how I put everything he built over his life at risk, just because of my selfishness and my wanting to be somebody I wasn't. And I asked for his forgiveness, and I asked him what I could do to make it right. And he told me I could start driving for him again. I love that job. I'm going to be at the Grand Canyon tomorrow. I get to take a family to the Grand Canyon tomorrow and get paid for it. I love that job. So I have 2 jobs right now that I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have either one of those jobs. It's God moving mountains. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in so many of my brothers' lives. Today I'm happy with who I am. Today my identity comes from what he says I am. And it's all over the Bible. I'm a new creation. I'm a beloved son of God. And that's where my identity comes from today. And I don't care how short I am. I don't care if I'm balding. I don't care if I'm still not athletic. I'm who he says I am. And he specially gifted me and made me to do the things that he had preordained for me to do. And now I'm getting a chance to do it.